Hey, fight fans! Welcome to another episode of the Fight Library. I lose track of what number we're on. Go figure. It's been a minute. That's why I've been losing track. Last card I was able to cover was Kamaru Usman versus Colby Covington. I think it was the post-fight, and I've just been sick ever since then. Kind of had a little bit of a sinus infection. I didn't like it, so yeah. Let's go ahead and talk about some boxing today because wow. Major upset last night on Teofimo Lopez versus George Kambosos Jr. And yes, it was that fight that was the upset. Kambosos beat Lopez. Before we get into the episode, drop a sub, drop a follow on Twitter, Blame Henry TFL. You can get at me there and ask me questions and chit chat with me about cool things. Or you can go ahead and check out my Patreon. For $5 a month, you get exclusive content every Monday, including my breakdown on Ryan Garcia and Luke Campbell, which dropped last week. So you guys are going to want to check that out. Anyway, so let's go ahead and dive into this episode because, wow. So, coming off of his last win, Teofimo Lopez was regarded as one of the top pound-for-pound boxers. And arguably, it makes sense. Even I put him up there around number 4. But it makes sense because, he just beat Lomachenko, who a lot of people thought was number 1 pound for pound. He comes out in this fight, he looks nothing like that fighter at all. Like, completely different. It was wild. I'm talking, I don't know how to explain it, but he looked like he was 24. Oh wait, he is. So, I think the big takeaway from this fight was that Teofimo Lopez is still young, and he fights like he's still young too. We saw that in the first round. Lopez comes out and he's firing, he's hammering away, trying to put Kambosos out quick, and it doesn't work. Kambosos is game. He moves around too much, and he gets knocked out in the first round. Lopez does, that is. Whoa, a major blow to his confidence. Let's see what happens next, right? So the big knock I'm seeing on the internet, and I agreed during the fight as well, the big knock I'm seeing on the internet was his dad. His dad's his trainer. His dad's his cornerman. His dad's everything. His dad has him hostage. Man, did he give bad advice. What are you doing? Slow down. Why haven't you knocked him out yet? Let's get him out of there, right? That's what his dad was telling him. It was horrible corner advice from the beginning. And it's easy to see why he lost this fight. He didn't make any mid-fight adjustments, which is very, very odd because what we saw from Teofimo Lopez in the Lomachenko fight was a smart fighter. And this wasn't a smart fighter at all. He was one punch looking. His jab was working to an extent because Kambosos would come and jab back and catch him with an overhand. Kambosos was faster. And he called this before the fight that the weight cut wasn't going to do him well. And it looks like it didn't, honestly. He slowed down in the fight. He was looking for haymakers, kind of just trying to stay alive. And it wasn't like he was hurt. Even in that first knockdown, it wasn't really like Teofimo Lopez was hurt. He was more or less just caught, he got caught. And okay, that happens. That happens to fighters. So, yeah, I get it. Lopez, he comes in after the fight. Well, let's before we get to that, let's keep going through the fight a little bit here. I got some notes. I always take my notes app if you guys haven't been able to tell yet. Anyway, so, he's round 3. It's apparent to me, at least, that he's struggling with the speed of George Kambosos. And Kambosos was just faster. He had the jab to a check hook, so it was a 1-3, right? He would jab, and then he would throw a check hook, and then probably another jab after it every now and then, or he'd come over the top with his right. I think it was his right. I don't remember if it was southpaw or not. I need to pay attention to this stuff a little bit more. But yeah, so the check hook on Lopez's jab did him wonders, and it really busted up the face of Teofimo Lopez. Kambosos worked that just perfectly. I mean, it was just beautiful how he got in there and banged with the guy that's supposed to bang bigger. He's supposed to be the knockout guy. And there was a couple rounds where they both got in at the end of the rounds, like, all right, let's bang. Bang, 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 bang. They would bang it out. It's like, wow. And it would work into the advantage of Kambosos because Kambosos, he wouldn't get knocked down, and he's tiring out the guy who's bigger and is going to be more tired. It worked beautifully. It was fantastic. It was smart. The game planning was great on Kambosos' part. So round 7, or round 6, I should say, Lopez is looking slower. He's loading up, and George Kambosos is doing a really good job of pivoting out and away from danger, creating an angle for that check hook that he was finding home to all night. And he did this pretty consistently through the fight. Now, rounds 7, 8, and 9, he looked a little bit more tired, but he kept his game plan. He kept going, he kept fighting, and he kept winning. Each one round at a time is how Kambosos took it, whereas Lopez was looking to end the whole fight. You see, there's this type of game planning that you have to keep in mind. You either got the Deontay Wilder approach, where I'm just going to end the fight, or you've got this George Kambosos, where I'm going to win each round. And Kambosos did just that. And, there's obviously game plans in between there. There's like the Canelo style, where I'm going to break you down and eventually find the knockout, and if I don't, oh well. But, yeah. Kambosos just worked his game plan. George, he would move about, and Lopez is just whiffing, and that's just dire on your gas tank. I mean, very, very, very rough, and it's working to the advantage of Kambosos. So round 8, Lopez is starting to step in huge, and every time he steps in, on the jab or on the right, he does a giant, over-exaggerated step in. Kambosos reads it, and pop, knocks him. Kambosos also did a good job of feigning his right, even though he didn't use it this much in the fight as normal. He would feint his right, shoulder feint, flick his jab, or flick his right, and Lopez would come in and fire, and that's how he would catch him with the check hook again. It was beautiful, beautifully done. Round 9, though, is where Lopez kind of started to storm back. Much better round, and Kambosos looked a little bit slowed down in round 9. I was like, uh-oh, this could be bad, because he still needs to win more. I had him up and had 5 rounds, 6 rounds or something like that. He needed to win one more round is basically what I'm getting at. And I was like, oh, this is looking bad. Round 10, Kambosos is biting on Lopez's feints now. He's not pushing the pace. And pace is something I wanted to circle back on, actually. I feel like that's something that Kambosos saw in the Lomachenko fight with Teofimo. So Lomachenko, second half of that fight, he pushes the pace. We remember he pushes the pace, and he starts to get Lopez on his back feet, and he quits respecting the power, and it works great. And then, round 12, Teofimo comes in, and he wins the titles in that. But here, George Kambosos, he really did a good job of working that game plan for most of the fight. So round 9, round 10, he's starting to, even round 8, even though he's winning, he's fighting off his back foot. He's not pushing the pace, and that's where Lopez starts to come. And you could feel like he's doing well. And Lopez, he lands a big right. He's throwing everything. And then a beautiful cross feint and a check hook from Lopez. It was great. And knocked him down. I was like, oh, Lopez is going to do this. And I wasn't pulling against Lopez. I always pull for the underdog, but I wasn't pulling against Teofimo Lopez because he's a good guy. You would think he's a good guy. We'll talk about that in a second. Beginning of round 11, Lopez is just more fresh. George Kambosos isn't throwing the right, but he ends up winning the round. Then round 12 was mastery. I'm talking about no round 12 magic for Lopez. It was mastery from George Kambosos, multiple punches, and Lopez was looking for a banger. It's kind of like the Fury Wilder fights obviously they're 135 and the other are heavyweight, but yeah. So eventually George Kambosos goes out. He gets the split decision win. And it was funny. The ref heard and still undefeated. Here the and still. He lifted up Teofimo's hands because and still, right? And still undefeated, what the announcer said. And Kambosos gets the win. So Kambosos, biggest moment of his life, one of the biggest moments in Australian boxing history. Teofimo comes over, and he interrupts the interview. Hey, I know I won that fight. I know I won that fight, man. It sounded just like Adrian Broner against, what was it, Pacquiao. He told the promoter guy, "I'll whoop your ass too." What? Bro, this is nuts. So, yeah, it was delusional, and Kambosos called it that, delusional. Teofimo even said he thought he won 10 rounds. Look at his face. It looked like minced meat. Come on, bro. You didn't win that fight. Kambosos said he called it up. The weight cut was going to affect him. Cutting down this far is going to bother him. And guess what? It really did. It bothered him to a large extent, and we saw that. So, yeah, not a big fan of what Teofimo did there. He's always been cocky, and we knew that. And I was curious about what his one loss would do, because he's going to get a loss the way he fights, and he got one. We saw it. And I was just wondering, how he's going to take that, because he's braggadocious in victory, and very, very well. I liked him because, I'm an LSU guy, and his last win he had the win where he put on the Joe Burrow jersey when Burrow won the Heisman. I'm an LSU guy, so, yeah, I don't know, man. It was just bizarre from Lopez that he thought he won 10 rounds. He's got to go back now. He's got to get rid of his dad. They're saying he needs to move up to 140, which I agree. That weight cut's just too much for him now. He's just too big of a young man. So what do we do? Move up to 140. Who's he fight? I don't know. Give him a can. And then don't let him fight Josh Taylor just yet. He has to win a couple fights, like 2 or 3, because coming off a loss, what's Taylor going to want to do with that? Keep Lopez. That Lopez loses to Lomachenko. Tank. Devin Haney beats him because Haney's smart. He can push the pace. That Lopez wants nothing to do with these guys. Shakur Stevenson wants to come up and fight. Oh, my God. Shakur would wreck Teofimo. He's too perfect. As for George Kambosos, man, he's got it made now, right? Holy crap. He just hit the jackpot. Teofimo came and beat Lomachenko. Takes the belts off of him. He gets an easier fight because Loma beats Kambosos. He just caught Lomachenko at the right time. And, yeah, he's got all the belts now. That's nuts. That's great for him, though. World's his oyster. So they're talking about Devin Haney fighting him next, which, obviously we want to see a unification. And, that's a fun fight, but imagine this. What if Jojo Diaz beats Haney, and then it's Devin Haney out, and you got Jojo Diaz and George Kambosos fighting for the belt? No one saw that coming. This was a mandatory fight, guys. This was a mandatory fight. It was crazy. I loved every second of it. It was beautiful. But yeah, Haney's the fight. He's going to obviously take a homecoming fight in Australia. The 4th. That's this weekend. Haney and Jojo Diaz fight. I'm taking Haney in that one. I might do a preview on it. Talk a little bit about both of the guys. But yeah, I see Haney taking that. And then we also have Jose Aldo Fight Week, which we're going to be getting into this week too. I'm going to do a preview of that. Should be coming out Wednesday. So be on the lookout. It's going to be great. It's going to be fantastic. Anyways, thank you to everyone who listens to this show, everyone who watched the video. Like, subscribe, share it with a friend because they might like fights. That's a throwback. I'm your host, Blaine Henry, and I'll catch you next time. We back, baby. Woo! Peace.